St. John Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Honourable House of Assembly of the Province of Newfoundland and Labrador in Parliament assembled, the petition of the undersigned residents of Newfoundland and Labrador humbly showeth, whereas transgendered people face high risk of discrimination, violence, underemployment, and lack of access to housing and other services, and whereas a recent EGAL Canada survey found that 90% of transgendered youth hear transphobic comments regularly from other students, and 1/4 hear such comments from teachers, and the Public Health Agency of Canada reports that nearly half of trans youth seriously considered suicide, and 1/5 attempted it in the previous year. Whereas all individuals should have equal opportunity to live their lives and meet their needs without being hindered or prevented by discriminatory practices based on gender identity or gender expression. And whereupon the undersigned, your petitioners humbly pray and call upon the House of Assembly to urge government to amend the Human Rights Act to include gender identity and gender expression in the list of prohibitive grounds of discrimination, as in duty bound your petitioners will ever pray. Mr. Speaker, I've received several signed petitions from both transgendered people and their supporters and their allies begging for the province to step up to the plate and amend our Human Rights Act. This has been a long time coming. There is so little more that needs to be said. Amending our Human Rights Act to include gender identity and gender expression is about basic human rights for some of the most disenfranchised people in our society. And we know that trans people, especially youth, are among the most bullied, harassed, and misunderstood. Trans people often face discrimination in employment, housing, and health. And yet, on the other hand, trans people are fully functioning, contributing members of our communities. Trans people are our doctors, lawyers, and chefs. They are civil servants, politicians, police officers, yes, even hairdressers and entertainers too. And they are our brothers, our sisters, our children, our neighbors. Together in all our diversity, we make up our home, Newfoundland and Labrador. To date, the Northwest Territories, Ontario, and Manitoba have amended their human rights legislation to include gender identity and expression. Quebec is in the process, and again, only today, Nova Scotia has introduced their bill to amend their Human Rights Act. And it's happening now today with a special Justice Committee in Canada on the federal level. It is an important issue. There are huge gaps, as acknowledged by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal and a number of experts who are writing on human rights law. Every time a trans person goes with a case to a human rights court, there is an added extra level legal step that they have to prove that it's not about sexual orientation or it's not about sex. And 2 years ago, our own Human Rights Commission instructed and made recommendations to this government to amend our Human Rights Act to include gender identity and gender expression. So there's clear in human rights circle that there is a huge gap that can be so easily filled. All the research has been done. The legal experts and human rights experts are attesting to that. So, Mr. Speaker, the time is now. On behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, I ask this government to do the right thing, amend our Human Rights Act so that we can proudly say that all Newfoundland and Labradorian people are protected and have the right to live in dignity, safety, and with respect. We can do this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.